I'm Elizabeth Lipscomb, like it says right there. I work for Discovery Education. For those of you who aren't familiar, Discovery Education, we were launched out of Discovery Communications, like Discovery Channel, Shark Week, you probably know us. #1 nonfiction media company in the world, and very similar to Discovery's mission to harness the power of media to transform the entertainment industry. Discovery Education launched about 15 years ago with the mission to harness the power of media and technology in schools. And so our goal is to transform the way teachers teach and students learn and use digital to make the learning experience exponentially more engaging at a fraction of the traditional cost. And so we work every day hand in hand with school districts, really partnering with them to try and reimagine what that textbook vendor relationship looks like with the district. We don't want to be a vendor, we want to be a partner in student achievement. And so our goal is to disrupt that market. And we are now we reach about 50 million students, and we're in 60 countries. We're in about 1 out of every 2 or 3 schools in the US. And so it's really exciting. But I actually don't want to talk to you about Discovery Education and who we are right now. What I want to talk to you about is where we are right now. We are clearly at CES. And if you walk around this floor, it is so overwhelming. It is so exciting because of just the creativity and the innovation and the technology that's all around us. And there's this sort of sense of hope, a hope about the future, because it feels like the Jetsons, and it feels like anything is possible, and it's constantly blowing our mind. But the reality is that this hopeful feeling about the future doesn't totally align with the reality of the STEM talent pipeline that exists in classrooms today. So I think everybody probably is aware that there is a STEM talent gap. Interestingly, the STEM talent gap isn't just one gap, it's really 5 critical gaps that make up this STEM talent ecosystem. The first is the belief gap. And so the belief gap really says that students and the adults around them have incorrect beliefs about what's required to go into a job in tech or STEM. And this flows into the fundamental skills gap. Business Roundtable said that 97% of their CEOs say that the skills gap is negatively and significantly impacting their business. And so just to put that in context for you, right now, the current skills gap in the US, or the current open unfilled jobs, is about 7.3 million jobs. About 4.4 million of those are highly skilled jobs. I'm just using this real quick, bear with me. Not sure, there we are. By 2030, if we stay on this trajectory, that's going to equal 85.2 million jobs. And what's crazy is that this slide has a typo. It's not just the US that could lose $162 billion annually if we stay on this path. It's the US tech industry. So that's per year. That's more than Jeff Bezos' net worth. Like, that's a lot of money. So we have this fundamental skills gap, which plays into then the demographic gap. So there is no place probably on the planet where the demographic gap is as evident as it is here in Las Vegas at CES. I don't know if I'm going in the wrong rooms, but definitely not half women. So we've got a demographic gap. And when you think about racial equality, like, this doesn't totally reflect the population. And beyond just the inherent injustice of that, there's an economic impact. Companies that are ethnic or that are gender diverse are 15% more likely to outperform their peers. And companies that are ethnically diverse are 35% more likely to outperform their peers. So all of these gaps within this STEM ecosystem really boil down to the fact that the way that we are educating our students today isn't engaging them and making relevant the kinds of jobs in tech and STEM that we need them to be prepared to do. So Randstad did this study recently, and they saw that 15%, or no, not 15%, they saw that it was 11 kids 11 to 17, and they saw that 52% of these students said they didn't think they knew anyone with a job in STEM, which is false. They just don't know what a job in STEM is necessarily. And then they went so far as to ask them about engineers. What do you think engineers do? And 76% of them said they don't really know what an engineer does. So these aren't 5-year-olds, these are high school juniors. Like, these are older kids who don't know what a job in STEM really looks like. I mentioned that I'm with Discovery Education, and Discovery Education's mission is really to harness the power of media and technology to transform teaching and learning, to reimagine the education marketplace, to not be a vendor of content, but a partner in student achievement. So that's the work that we're doing, our heart and soul, with school districts. We also, though, are trying to reimagine and reinvent the education marketplace in terms of our work with corporations and trying to connect that dot between future employers and their future employees in the classroom today. So we work with TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. I don't know if anyone from TCS is here. Anyways, TCS, we work with them on a computational thinking program. So when you think about computer science and what's required to go into a computer science field, kids need to understand how a computer would solve a problem. And so we're training teachers across the country on how do they take a pedagogical approach to problem solving that helps these kids understand the way a computer would solve that problem. We work with Nielsen to incorporate data science into core curriculum. Lockheed Martin, Siemens, getting kids excited about engineering by taking them on virtual field trips to places where they wouldn't otherwise be able to go and see what careers in engineering actually look like. Because if they can't see it, they say that they can't be it. And if they can't relate to it, they can't be it. And so we have now these relationships with corporations and these relationships with school districts, which puts us in a really unique position to think about this STEM talent gap and the scale of this STEM talent gap, and to try and take a really scaled approach to addressing it. Because we aren't going to solve this with just one stakeholder, one company, one school, one education company. We need to bring together a first-of-its-kind, cross-sector collaborative of industry and education and nonprofits and research partners to look at how can we create a scaled approach to solving this. So Discovery Education partnered with a number of different corporations, Microsoft, Chevron, Boeing, API, and as well as Manufacturing Institute, and research partners, McCrell that looks at student data, CECP that looks at corporate investment in their future workforce. And we've come together with this coalition, a first-of-its-kind approach. It's a 5-prong approach, and it makes direct investments in schools, and it puts employees in classrooms in really meaningful ways to help students, especially students from low-income communities, understand what these jobs and these skills that are required look like. It uses engineering design process to help students create real-world problems using what they're learning in schools right now. And it has all kinds of research components within it to look at how is corporate investment at an earlier age, where it's really hard to connect the dot between a dollar invested today and an additionally qualified worker tomorrow, how is that corporate investment actually impacting the bottom line? So we've come together. It's a first-of-its-kind initiative. We launched this in November. But like I said, this isn't one stakeholder, this isn't one company, this isn't just the 5 companies or the research partners or nonprofits who have come on board with us at the beginning. This is going to require everyone coming together to try and solve this STEM talent gap. And so I know that I talked about this, a little bit of doom and gloom data and statistics, and I talked about how there's this hopeful feeling on the show floor, and then I kind of popped the tech bubble of that feeling. But the reality is actually that I am really hopeful, because I do think that there are scaled solutions that we can take by all coming together to address the STEM talent gap and make sure that CES 2030 looks a lot more diverse and is a lot fuller than CES 2020. So thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Landmark. Appreciate it.